Hello everyone and welcome to the Everton Heritage Show. In this, the week of Remembrance, Everton play Fulham today and will pay their respects with a minute's silence before kick-off. And also before the game, I'll be joined here on the show by Rob Sawyer and Mike Royden, two authors and historians with a great wealth of knowledge on the periods covering both world wars. And we're going to have a chat about all of the players that we lost at war, and many who survived as well. Some incredible stories to dive into, and we'll take a look at some of these amazing artefacts on the table in front of me too. Enjoy the show.
Marching down the Goodison Road.
One of Britain's greatest footballers.
Sharp! What a fantastic goal! And the Evertonians have gone berserk.
One Evertonian is worth 20 Liverpoolians.
Oh, it's great stuff by Everton.
Heritage.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Everton Heritage Show, brought to you by members of the Everton Heritage Society. And here with me today I have two historians, two authors, two renowned Heritage Society members, but only one of them is my dad. So welcome back, Rob Sawyer and Mike Royden. Thanks for being here.
I'm just wondering which one's his dad.
I can assure you it is Mike.
So obviously with it being Remembrance Week, it's November the 6th today, I think. So we're close to Remembrance Sunday tomorrow, and midweek, November the 11th, where we'll have our service at back at Goodison Park. But before then, we thought we'd make a feature of the day today and highlight some of the fallen Everton soldiers and how the club coped during both of the world wars. You guys have both written books on the subject and around the subject. So where did your research begin?
Well, personally, it was family history. And ever since I was a child, I've always wanted to know what had happened to me great-grandfather. And I can remember going down to my nan's house, used to live in one of those bread streets, going down towards the Herculaneum dock. And they've always got a bit drawer, haven't they, in the kitchen, and so I was fascinated as a youngster. And going through this bits drawer, I found this.
Oh, wow.
And so this is what's known as a memorial penny. And this was given to the families if their loved one hadn't returned. So they sent their husband or boyfriend away, killed in action or whatever, and they got that in return. Now it did come in a wallet with a message from the king and a scroll. And it was actually designed by someone from Liverpool as well. And his name's on there, so they're all unique. And his name's on there, and it's Charles Royden.
It's my great-great-grandfather.
That's correct, yeah.
And it's quite significant that it's got the name on it as well, isn't it? Because I mean, a lot of people, you can find these markets and being sold on, but to have the one from your own family is quite significant.
Yeah, and I found it was face down in the drawer. You'd think it was out on show somewhere, but that'd be the early 60s, and maybe even then it was still raw for the family. I have no idea, but I asked them if I could have it, and they said yes. But it was years later before I could do anything about it, and I eventually went over. I mean, it's a very long story which we haven't got time for, but I eventually went over to the battlefields and followed the war diary, what his movements were all the way through, and so I eventually finished at his grave, which was quite an emotional evening by the time I got there. But yeah, that's how it began for me, and so I got a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge from all that research that I did just around him.
And that story is online as well, isn't it? So if you want to follow that
PDF
journey
online.
And go in depth.
And also, not just him, it was his family, because obviously it started with him, but it brought home to me the devastation right across that generation, because even within his own family, his brothers were affected by it. Another one killed in action. One died 2 years later from war wounds. A brother-in-law was killed out in Greece. So you can imagine that family were devastated right across that rank, And
it's such a common story as well, isn't it? Although it's significant to yourself and fascinating.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
but exactly.
Yeah.
Any personal connections with you, Rob?
Yeah, my grandfather, Bill Sawyer, who grew up around Waterloo, he was in the Loyal North Lancashire Regiment, so fighting on the Western Front. And just before the end of the war, September 1918, he took a bullet, just grazed his spine. So a couple of millimetres the different direction, he'd have been killed, but he survived. Convalesced back in Nottingham in a hospital and managed to recover and live a full and active life supporting Everton and co-founding the Everton Supporters Federation in the 1950s. So huge Evertonian. Sadly, he died when I was only 6, so I never got to sit him down and try and get those stories out of him. I don't know if he did talk about it much, but that wasn't uncommon, was it?
That's right.
People have been through that. But we've still got the bullet, amazingly, and like you, the stuff got kept,
bullet.
The bullet,
wow,
along with other bits of paraphernalia. So that's sort of safely at our house. And just think that was fired at him, and that there. But for the grace of God, he might not have survived, and I wouldn't be here today. Yeah. So count myself very fortunate. I'm very proud as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's fascinating, isn't it? Like you, in terms of actually both of you being able to hold the things that started the journeys of the research and things like that. And of course, the research does go so far for both of you as well. So I mentioned a moment ago in terms of finding things online, in terms of the extensive research that the pair of you have done, both with family history and of course Everton's history as well. So because you've got your own website, haven't you, the Royden history pages?
So with regards to the family history side, that's all on there, yeah. But I'd also got involved in tracing war memorials as well. So for example, the village where I grew up was Hale Wood, so we've looked at the war memorial there. Where we've moved to now is Farndon. And where it's taught is in the South Wirral, so we've looked at that one. The Farndon one, we actually did a book on it for the 100th anniversary, which we've got there.
Which is one of the many we have on there.
Yeah. So yeah, Village at War there. So that was all about the soldiers, and it's every single soldier on the war memorial and the ones who served them as well. So it's that kind of thing as well that helped spur me on for more research really. Yeah,
and it has resulted, as you say, in both, well, not just the Farndon one, but we've got the Wirral at War, Chester at War, and perhaps significantly
and then
some
World
here
War
as well.
II as well. Yeah,
Merseyside at War in the Second World War there as well.
It's the first time I've been able to compete with Rob for books, I think.
I know.
Modesty.
Yeah, it's a close run thing, I'm sure. Yeah. We'll get on to more books shortly, I'm sure. You mentioned the war memorial, or the research on war memorials. So to bring this onto Everton, we've mentioned many times in the past about the war memorials that are still up at Goodison Park that flank the Dixie Dean statue at the park end. I believe they were made in 2011. Could you tell us a little bit more about how they came about and how Everton are involved?
Well, I mean, it predates my time in the Heritage Society. From what I understand, it was the likes of David France, obviously founder or founding member of the society, but also Paul Wharton, who was our chairman at the time, the late John Rowlands,
Billy Smith, I think.
Yeah, Billy Smith, who'd done a huge amount of research for his Blue Correspondent website. I know Peter Jones later on involved. I think a group of society members sort of came together to try and firstly identify the fallen who were linked in some way to Everton, former players, either of the Everton in Walton or also the Everton in Chile. So there's a couple there. So identifying them and then actually immortalising them, if you will, on the plaque next to the Dixie Dean statue. And the great thing was that not only was there one there at Goodison and still is there, but also one taken over to Chile. So
of course,
it's just sort of strengthening those bonds. So it's great that those are there, and that's now where the Heritage Society has its annual remembrance event on the 11th of November.
Yeah, and I think also when we had an influx of new members, including myself, just a few years later, Peter came along then, Tony Wainwright, and that kicked it on again regarding the research. And whereas we had, I think, was it 8? I think on the original one. We've now got about 18, I think. So it's
is that it, names on the plaque? There wasn't many.
They were
or they're commemorated in the booklet.
And as a result of that, you're right. So as a result of that, Peter Jones and I produced this. So that encompasses all the research, all the names that we have.
So this is a booklet called the Fallen of Everton Football Club and those of Everton de Viña del Mar in Chile, and it lists.
Yeah, and also Peter started work on the New Zealand. There's an Everton in New Zealand. So like we heard about the Chile Everton,
the Wheelteros guys
from John. There's also a New Zealand team. So Peter done an inordinate amount of research on that. So there's a full list on there, and that Richie Gillam's come in on that as well with research to add. So those names were added too. So that we did have a print run of that, but they've gone. So but there is a PDF on the Everton Heritage website where you can download it.
I see. So at least get a bit more insight into it, each one of those names. And just sorry, Rob, before just to cut across you there, but before we move on from the memorial plaques themselves, there's more names still to be added. Is that right? Are they? You see, we've been a bit in limbo about it really because of the move. We weren't sure whether Goodison was going to be reused, knocked down, or whatever. Now we know what's happening. We didn't know whether there was going to be a memorial down here, and if that was the case, that would have been an opportune moment to put a new one up with all the names on it. We're still investigating that and still pursuing to see what might happen. So. Can't answer the question at the moment. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Everything's ongoing. I mean, since the booklet was produced, there's been some updates, haven't there, that are on our website, and the research continues. So maybe
absolutely,
in 12 months from now we identify another person linked to the club. So it's an ongoing process of research.
Yeah, and also looking into who else served as well. So it's not just about those who lost their lives. I mean, because those who served were badly affected. Well, many of them were badly affected.
Yeah,
so
I think
as well.
You touched on something that's really significant to highlight here. Is that obviously we're highlighting all of these stories today as it's the right time of year, that the opportune moment. But this is consistent research all year round. This is an ongoing project that isn't just highlighted once a year. It's regular, ongoing research. And you yourself, Rob, have written you've written books on the teams, particularly the book behind you, The Broken Dreams, the Everton team of 1939, who of course won the championship just as war broke out, just as the same thing had happened in 1914 as well. So could you give us a little insight onto kind of how Everton were coping with war?
Well, if we just skip back to the First World War, obviously we won the title in 1914-15, which was actually played with the First World War as a backdrop. I've researched a number of the players in that team, but I think we should also have a shout out to our member George Orr, who has actually written a book about, I think it's called Over the Top, which is the story of that.
We've got his Second World War one there. I was looking for that one earlier. You're quite right. Yeah.
So check out George Orr's book about that. But clearly, that season we won the league in 1914-15. There was a lot of resentment that professional sport was ongoing. So it's a very muted celebration, if any celebration, when we won it. And clearly then either players went into theatres of war, people like Chedzoy, like Bobby Parker, or were on the home front. So that disrupted the team when we reconvened in 1919. Not the same team, and very much history repeated itself in 1939 when perhaps arguably the best, most complete Everton team won the league, and then were broken up when war broke out in September of that year. And that was a 7-year hiatus in league football.
Wasn't that what, if your father and your grandfather, so it was the best side, best Everton side you'd ever seen?
My dad, who was sort of probably in his teens, around about 15, around that time, 14, 15. Yeah, he, Lawton, he would eulogise for hours about Tommy Lawton, Mercer, T.G. Jones, Sagar, Cook, Torrey Gillett, just a brilliant side. And of course, when they came back, some of them did actually, most of them enlisted. A lot of them were on the home front, physical training instructors. but some did serve abroad, like Ted Sagar, Billy Cook, Alex Stevenson, and
there were regular letters coming over from Sagar, weren't there? Is it to be or?
Yeah, to the correspondence of the Echo, I think it was to be.
Yeah.
So that was how we were getting news of how they were getting on. They were writing to the sports editors at the Merseyside Press, and then those guys came back in 1946, and again, some had retired, some were over the hill, and Everton were on a slippery slope to relegation. 5-6 years later?
Yeah.
So when you consider, I think I don't know if the record still stands, because Manchester City have recently been on quite a run of title after title after title, but both of those eras where we held that championship title for, well, as you say, 7 years, obviously because nobody was competing with us, but we still hold that now. Whether we can claim it as something to be super proud of, considering no one was able to compete, but still, I've got a record that still stands. Before we move on, there is one other member of the society that we feel like we need to highlight here. Is you mentioned before Tony Wainwright, who's done an extensive amount of research on the World War I projects in particular. And well, he runs the Liverpool Pals site as well, doesn't he? And Tony was awarded with a BEM. Now, since Tony can't be here to speak for himself today, could you give us an insight into some of the work that Tony's?
Yeah, Tony's been heavily involved with the Liverpool Pals research, and it kind of started off where they were fundraising to try and install a memorial to the Pals somewhere in Liverpool. Now, there are other memorials for the Kings, the Liverpool regiments, but there was nothing specific for the Pals. So a few like-minded people got together, a lot of fundraising went on. They commissioned a sculptor, and then eventually this frieze was put up in Lime Street Station. Okay. And there was a special opening for it, and Prince Edward came up, and there was a march past and all that kind of thing. And he was introduced to him as well, and the rest of the campaigners. And then later, Tony, for his efforts, and the rest of the guys involved, he was awarded the British Empire Medal for that. And also, with some of the funding left, they then created this amazing website where the men are all not just recorded on there, but their biographies, and as many photographs of them as they can find, and it's an incredible site. Also, he's also found out there's around about 650 additional names that are not listed in the town hall on their Hall of Remembrance. Right. So he's been in talks with the officials there to get those names added on. So he's done an amazing amount of research and graft on that,
Yeah, that's a huge number, isn't it?
And he goes over to the battlefields on a regular basis, furthering the research,
And just for the sake of clarity, who were the Liverpool Pals?
Well, they were when war broke out, which is on the 4th of August 1914, it was soon realised that we were heavily outnumbered. So the call went out that we need volunteers. And to encourage this, Lord Derby and one or two others had the idea that if you sign up with your pals and your mates, the street where you live or the place where you work, you can fight with them, you can be with them, and that was the idea. And so people rushed to join up. And Liverpool were the first to actually do this, and this idea spread around the country. There was loads of them in the end, but we supplied 4 battalions, wow. Which is an incredible achievement. But of course, if you do that, you're then going to get killed in action altogether as well.
I think it was advertised as like a fun trip, wasn't it? As like you and all your mates can go over a holiday.
It's an adventure.
You can go abroad together, you and your neighbours. But of course, they weren't to know.
That were decimated by this, and it was so they've never done that since.
I didn't realise that Liverpool were the first, because that's quite a famous story, isn't it? The country that happened across the country.
Yeah,
but
I do talks on this kind of thing, and one of the things I put up is on the screen is the number of pals, but they're in books like this one. So here's our own here. The one on the Liverpool Pals here by Graham Maddox.
Yeah.
but they've printed pals books on, you know, it's about 3 screens I put up with them, one after another. So it's right across the country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huge amounts,
Yeah.
huge numbers. And again, obviously, as you mentioned in Tony's work, there are a couple. People may recognise Tony's face from a couple of recent projects that we've done to highlight Donald Sloan and Tom Gracie.
Tom Gracie,
both of whom former Everton players who were lost. I don't believe Thomas Gracie served at war, did he?
He didn't serve abroad. He had joined up, but he contracted leukemia in 1915. His brother was killed in action, and 4 weeks later, Tom died as well. So that must have been a devastating time for the family.
Yeah.
And we've just made a film of them about that. So we're trying to gradually work our way through all the men on the memorial. If we do one a year, it's going to take us 18 years. So we need to speed up, you know. But
at least, unless the research can.
Well, we've done 3 now.
More.
So we've had Don Sloan has been done, and that's been released on the website. You can see it there. And as I say, we just finished Tom Gracie as well.
I'll make sure those links are put in there as well, so we can go and find
them. Well
yours.
worth watching. I think it's great. It's a great endeavour by you guys and Tony, because it just helps bring it to life, the story to life, doesn't it? We can all read it in a booklet, which is brilliant, but to have it presented with imagery, and hopefully that's something that, you know, the younger generation can easily digest and appreciate. So great work.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's significant to me in terms of, like you're saying, putting those images together as well, and it's nice to be able to, when you're trying to find the images to embellish a story, you know, oral stories are fantastic and people can recount the history very well and in the written word, but when you've got those actual images of you know, I mean, photographs of course are very hard to come by, so when you find those, they're phenomenal. But the newspaper cuttings as well, and the stories being told, and like in the paper of the day, and the obituaries and things like that are really valuable.
I think also it's going out to the battlefields as well, you know, to actually see where this happened.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to imagine it, because when you, I mean, some of the most beautiful places in France, especially the Somme area, is a tourist area, you know, and not just for the war remains or whatever. It's a beautiful place, so you can be there on a sunny day and skylarks are around and about. It's just you just cannot imagine the carnage that took place there, and around Ypres in Belgium as well. You know, it's it. But it is important as a researcher to go out there and to see where this took place, and but the cemeteries are just all over the place. They're in the middle of fields because that's where the trench lines were. You'll turn down a little lane and there's another one in the middle of a field. And farmers respect it as well, and they'll leave a little lawned path into the middle of their field with crops in. You can go at one stage and it's just a ploughed field, and you're there 6 months later, the crops are around you and this little pathway going through, you know. So they do respect, you know, what's there, but it's astonishing. In fact, we were talking about Charles Royden. I've got a map where all these graveyards are, and he's number 100. You know, that's the cemetery, and there's more than that. You know, it's astonishing, and that's why we've brought some of this along as well. You know, you can be walking around the fields. I don't go with a trowel or anything. You're walking around, and some of this is ploughed out.
So the stuff on the far end of the table towards Rob there. This is because I don't want to mix it up necessarily with the medals themselves, but these are things that are actually been found. Some of them by yourself, or is it all of them by yourself? Just by chance as well. It's not like you're going out, as you say, you're not specifically searching
I'm not digging
for these
anywhere,
things.
because you're actually warned. You know, don't go in certain areas, don't dig anywhere. You know, because I mean, there's a lot of live stuff out there, and people are still injured, believe it or not, over 100 years later.
I'm not surprised. There must be so many unexploded munitions out
there. And
you're
warned not to bring anything back. But
so for the sake of
it's all for educational purposes this year.
Exactly.
It's all declared safe, is it?
You're sitting awfully close there,
I've been pulled over at Dover, and they made me open the back, and it was full of stuff. And I said, well, I'm a teacher, honest, you know.
Nothing to see here, officer.
Yeah.
For the sake of the audio listeners here, can you just give us an idea of, give us a list, I suppose, and point out a few things? What can we see here on the table? What have we got?
Well, some are fairly obvious when you look at them, and obviously there's bullet cases there. There's a revolver bullet as well. There's badges, which is how we can identify people if they're found. We've got bottle tops, and we've got shell cases, and the charge that goes on the end of the shell case.
Right.
So it's got the buckles as well. There's all the paraphernalia you'd expect to see, but it just comes up in the plough, It's
exactly.
There was one time I was just driving along in a little lane on the Somme, and I could see these little like steel balls on the roadside, and I just stopped and I just opened the door, and the shrapnel shells are just there, just all along the gutter.
Yeah.
So it's all over the place,
It's like you say, it's not like you've gone out, or anybody necessarily goes out digging these things up.
No.
They are, so many of these fields now have been turned into are farmers' fields, aren't they? And as the ploughs go
I did
over
have a conversation about that actually with a farmer. I'd been staying at the farm at B&B, and I asked him about this kind of thing, and I said, what happens surely if this is coming up, you're going to have remains coming up as well? And he said, that happens. Yeah. I said, well, what do you do? He said, well, if we stopped, we'd have to bring people in, archaeologists, police. It'll stop us working, so we just keep ploughing, which I found that very difficult to accept, but you can then understand life goes on, and it's hard.
Livelihood to keep,
yeah.
And you were there just this summer, weren't you, sort of touring the...
That's right, yeah.
The battlefields.
I'd gone over to... I get asked to do tours as well, so I've taken a few guided tours over. But I was with a friend who wants me to show him, where to go, because he was tracing his ancestor. But he was very kind, because we took time to visit all the Everton players who were fallen in that area on the Western Front. So I was able to go and pay respects and put the Everton Heritage scarf there and do a little photograph. But also we did a film clip on each one. So with the view of that, like we've done for Don Sloan and Tom Gracie, maybe we can make use of those little film clips at some stage in the future. I know we're using one at the moment, aren't we? So
yeah, absolutely. Well, since you've segued onto that,
right.
I'm wondering how much you want to talk about one individual, a very significant individual on the list that we have the list of fallen behind you here,
and he's on the original plaque as well.
On the original plaque, so it's a name that's come up on a couple of occasions in previous shows that we've done recently, notably with Paul Owens when we were discussing the goalkeepers, and one of the most iconic pre-war goalkeepers, Everton players in general, was Leigh Richmond Roose, and of course you are we are in the process of telling his story by documentary, which hopefully by the time this show goes out will also be out, so we can kind of use this platform as like as we speak. There's work going on, but once this is live and people are watching and listening, hopefully we can direct you now to the Heritage Society YouTube page, the Everton Heritage Society website, where there is an extensive documentary on the life of Leigh Richmond Roose. So do you want to tell us a little bit about who he was? Yeah,
well, you and I have been looking forward to doing this, haven't we? Because he lives just a few hundred yards, or he lived just a few hundred yards away from where we live. So we actually live in a village called Fallen, which is on the border between England and Wales, and he lives in Holt, which is just over the bridge. So we went out a couple of weeks ago and filmed up by his house, and also the school over the road where he was educated, and a famous teacher was there as well, which was H.G. Wells, the very same author. One, War of the Worlds. And Rob's come up with us on another day. We went up there to take a look. We had a tour.
His dad was a minister, wasn't he? So
that's right.
Hence why they lived there. Although he took a different path in life. Didn't see that. It's a fascinating story how he's an amateur, wasn't he, throughout his life?
That's right,
Studied, ended up in Aberystwyth.
Yeah, he went to Aberystwyth to uni because his father, as a Presbyterian minister, wanted his son to be in a profession, and so medicine was the chosen one. And so he got in there, and but he was soon picked up by the local football team, Aberystwyth Town.
And he won the Welsh Cup with them,
Yeah.
I think with Charlie Parry, and a former Everton player whose grave we restored
That's
a few
right,
years ago.
We had the photograph, we were going to put it up, weren't we?
Parry, yeah.
Charlie Parry.
I'll tell you what, I'll throw it in. I'll pull it out in a minute because he's down the back of that sofa and I'm not going to climb over here. Should have put
sorry
him up.
about that, Rob.
No problem.
Yeah.
But wasn't it then the Bright Lights of London sort of took him in that direction?
Yeah, that was via South Wales. He played for a very brief time in South Wales, and then, yes, you're right. But that's because his course transferred to one of the hospitals in London, and so he was able to match his time. Then he then went to London Welsh, which was obviously a rugby club, but they had a football. I was going to say a soccer team, but we don't use that term. They had a football team there as well. And so he played there, and it was his amazing performances there and getting called up by the Welsh side that brought his attention to the Division 1 side of the day, and Stoke came in first, so he moved there.
But I think he was commuting from London, wasn't he?
Absolutely,
there's a famous story about once he was late and he had his own private carriage or train to get him up to kick-off.
He's clearly a very kind of enigmatic, flamboyant character of his day.
And he charged it to Stoke.
I'm sure, the club have got to pay. Yeah, you want me to
and
come.
that's why he fell out, So that kind of thing happened a few times,
I think it's worth, without wanting to give away the entire story here. There was
I'm just wondering how far we go with this.
Go and watch the film. Go and watch the film. It's worth it.
Can I just say though, although I've done my own research on this, but I know Rob's looked into his life as well. We have to acknowledge Spencer Vignes, who's. I mean, this is my favourite book on football, apart from Rob's books, obviously.
As you said.
But it is a superb book. This.
So that's Lost in
France. And there is a mystery story in it as well. So it's brilliant. And we relied heavily on this. And he came to Holt for the History Society one stage, and he gave a talk there. And it was the Shareholders Association, I think. I think Lyndon was over there for that. So Lyndon Lloyd, one of our members. So he wrote a review on that. So that's on the website. So
without answering the question here and now, so that there is still a little trail for people to follow.
Yes.
There's a mystery. So what was the mystery?
Well, nobody knew what had happened to him. He was called up. We missed that bit out. He was called up, and he went initially as a medic. No, he was a volunteer. Sorry, he went as a volunteer. And they shipped him out. He had a short period in France working in a hospital there. Then he was shipped out to Gallipoli. And if you know your history about that, you know it was a disaster. And after that, the family had no word of him and thought he'd perished there, you see. So they had no idea what had happened to him.
Wow.
And it was many years later, in fact, after the war, when they started to get an inkling of where he might have gone.
Fantastic. Good job on stopping just in time there. I thought you were going to...
Do you want to shall I stop there? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's worth just saying, obviously, he played for Everton for about a season. I think Paul Owens touched on that when you had the chat about the goalkeepers. But brilliant goalkeeper. Just missed out on sort of honours with Everton, but then fell out with Will Cuff. So a sparkling but short time at Goodison. Yeah,
that's right. I did a bit more research on the Everton aspect. Because I was trying to figure out why we didn't keep hold of him, and although it's been said there was a falling out, I got rather confused about that, because he then seems to have written Cuff a letter of apology, and the falling out incidentally was because we were on for a double with the Cup and the league, and but the fixture list was bonkers. At the end of the season, Manchester City on the Friday, Arsenal on the next day. And one was at home, one was in Manchester, one was in London, and the travelling, the whole thing. Roose just lost it completely, and we got beat against Arsenal. And in fact, it was a replay game. The original game, Fogg stopped play, and then we were winning, and they had to replay it. We got beat. We'd have won the league otherwise. So there's a bitterness about that. We've always been bitter, obviously. And yet, so this so-called falling out, I then discovered he'd written a letter of apology to him, and they immediately went on a tour. So it was that Austria tour that they went on, playing a few games over there. I thought Roose hadn't gone, but when I looked it up and the minutes and the reports, he was there. But what we didn't know is that he was tapped up again by Stoke. So just on the 3rd of May, just days later, he gets a telegram from the Stoke manager saying, do you want to come back? And 2 words in a reply in the telegram, glad to. Now, in the meantime, Everton, and this is in the minutes of the club, they're trying to re-sign him. He's still on the books at Stoke, but by the way, they still have to go down and get the contract. But Everton think it's plain sailing. It's in the press. Yeah, he's going to play for next season. They don't realise what's gone on behind the scenes, and he's going to Stoke. This dragged on till the end of August, and they eventually said, I'm definitely resigning. So,
and there you go.
But we had a top-class goalie.
Yeah, Billy Scott, luckily, so we had another good keeper. But just shows nothing's new in football, really, is it? Tapping up.
Yeah.
People, players leading clubs on, clubs leading players on.
Absolutely.
New.
Yeah.
It's always been a thing, hasn't it?
So we blew it. We would have had that keeper for. But as you say, we had Billy Scott, who was a cracking goalie.
I look forward to the film, though, and obviously, as you say, people should check out Lost in France, brilliant book as well.
So we're working on this film at the moment.
And one last thing I want to say on the book, I need to issue an apology to Spencer for getting his name wrong in the previous thing. I pronounced it Vines,
Vignes,
and it is Spencer Vignes. So sorry to Spencer for that. If anyone couldn't find the book because of that, I apologise. There's obviously, we've mentioned there's a long list of players that are on the memorial, not on the memorial, both on the First World War and the Second World War as well. One of whom is in today's matchday programme. And for anyone who will have watched our episode with John Sheeran on the Everton Heritage Society a few weeks ago, who of course also have a stall here with us in the Heritage Centre, they may remember the name of Frank Boundy, who I believe was one of the founding members of Everton in Chile. So
English by birth, but moved in childhood because of his dad's work over to Chile, and one of those founding members back in 1909. So one of those sort of Anglo-Chileans, key in those formative years of the club, but very soon back over in Europe, doing his patriotic duty.
So he's featured in the programme, isn't he? So we have a page in every matchday programme, curated by Rob. He gets us all in order to chiv us along to get the programme articles done.
Do you want me to hold that
and
up
there you are.
There you go.
So there's the latest one. It's written by
I've put Tony Wainwright again, as we mentioned before. There's a lovely photograph of Boundy in there, and the full story.
And so there are for each year in the matchday programme there has been a remembrance article as well, hasn't there? So various authors, Pete Jones has done a few. I think you've done one. I think I've done one or two. Tony's done about 3 of them. So and we always cover some aspect of the kind of thing that we're hearing now. So that is a feature. Okay.
Now, Robbie, you've as we've mentioned your books already, considering the time period that yours feature on, you must have come across multiple players that will have served that war or around those times. I mean, one name that I picked out was that of Harry Cook. He seemed a pretty fascinating. I believe he was the physio.
Yeah, not to be confused with his namesake, Harry Cook, the trainer. One has an E on the end, one doesn't.
And he was Richard as well.
Richard Harry Cook. He was from Clitheroe, so up in East Lancs, but enlisted, fought in the war, was blinded in Gallipoli in 1915. And back then there was a charity set up called St Dunstan's down near London, I think in Surrey. So blinded service personnel would go there, they'd recuperate, but they'd be retrained, so they'd be given training for occupations they could perform, even without the gift of sight. So in Harry's case, he was given training in physiotherapy, because obviously it's a hands-on kind of occupation. So he qualified there, then came up to Liverpool to get postgrad qualification, flew through his course, top marks out of all the students. And then by 1923, he was taken on by Everton Football Club as really an assistant to Harry Cook, the trainer. So Harry, Richard, if you will, became the physio for the team, and he was there right up until the Second World War. So he I've read a couple of articles with him where he talks about how he could recognise the players just from the feel of their legs. He could recognise Dixie Dean because he had thick ankles, probably because of all the kicking that Dixie had had. He said Tommy Lawton had very long shin bones, obviously Tommy being a very tall lad, whereas Joe Mercer was sort of slightly wonky. Joe was famously bow-legged. And I think Albert Gerlard, he said, had hairy legs, so he knew Albert straight away. The players would sometimes play tricks and everything. I think they once got the tea lady on the thing, and he soon rumbled that they were trying to pull the wool over him. So he was integral to the success of the team, getting players fit, recuperating after the matches, especially in that 38-39 season. They would take him to their training camps in Buxton, Harrogate. He'd be there getting the players fit. So
it was a white coat as well. He would
he'd wear the white coat. There's a couple of photos. I'm sure we'll sort of ping them on this show, so you can see him doing his job. So it's obviously we talk about a lot of the fallen people who lost their lives, but there's also people who have made a positive out. Their experience in the war, they've managed to bounce back and do great things. And I think Harry Cook is somebody we should remember as one of those. Key to Everton's success. You'd even go and watch in inverted commas, watch the matches. He described how he would sit there, and he even just from the sway of the crowd and the noise, he would be able to have a mental picture of what was going on the pitch. So, clearly a brilliant character who was, integral to our success in the 30s.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you mentioned Joe Mercer there. Joe was born the week the war broke out, the First World War. And his father, who'd been playing at the Steelworks in Ellesmere Port, was signed by Notts Forest. So he was a top player. But he then went into the football battalion, and he was wounded 3 times. Then he was captured. It was a prisoner of war, very badly treated, and he was gassed in the trenches. And when he came out, he then re-signed there for Forest. I mean, it was incredible the physicality of some of these guys, and he gradually went down to lower leagues. And he passed away in about 1928, I think. But this is a man that had endured so much and had come back and was clearly physically affected. And when you see players rolling around as though they've been shot, well, this guy really had been, and it's amazing guy. By then, Joe was he at Tranmere by then, I think?
By that stage, so Joe Mercer Senior ended up at Tranmere, so probably Joe saw him as a kid, played for Tranmere Rovers before he sadly died. Yeah.
In fact, his story, Joe Senior, is on the website.
I think Pete Jones has done quite a bit of research.
No, that was me.
And taking credit off you. Mike Royden's done a lot of research.
Pete's done a lot of research, but I did that one.
Well,
sorry, Pete.
As it is with all of this, it is all on the website, as always, isn't it? It is an incredible website, which I should give you your flowers for. You do yourself that does the website, isn't it? Uploading everybody's work. So credit for that. It's as we always say, it's a 365-day job. That is, so much is regularly uploaded. So, well done.
Thanks, son.
You can pay me for that later.
I'll pay you later. All right.
One more, Bobby Parker. That brings us round to Bobby, who, of course, we've mentioned before on the show. But give us a little update on how all that's going.
So we're making progress. We set up the sort of GoFundMe campaign to get Bobby's grave up in Glasgow restored, because it had fallen into disrepair. It was on its lying flat. So we've got that re-erected. The stonemason's been sort of redoing the lettering, so that looks fantastic. And now we're just still doing the fundraising to now have the additional plaque, which will list the clubs that Bobby was associated with. So Nottingham Forest, Bohemians, Rangers, Everton, and others, and also probably mention his war record as well, because
I was going to say he's one of the survivors, isn't he?
He was one of the survivors, albeit his football career was never the same after that. So really grateful to the donations people have made, and absolutely. Hopefully in the coming months we'll raise the money to get it over the line and have that additional memorial on his grave, and then hopefully we can get up there and have some kind of ceremony to mark that.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. I mean, again, I'll push the links there, and people can find those in the description if you want to help donate to a very worthy cause.
Just to go back to, if you don't mind, it was when we were talking about the battlefield tours, going out there, and that experience. it's the fact that you can be quite overwhelmed when you're out there, and in particular some of the memorials. I mentioned the graveyards that are there, all maintained by the Commonwealth War Graves, all in beautiful condition. But there are one or two huge memorials there which are breathtaking. In Belgium, you got there the Menin Gate.
Yeah.
And I mention this because for people to consider the numbers of people involved, on the Menin Gate there are 55,000 names, and they're on there because they were never found. Yeah. Not far from there is Tyne Cot, the largest Commonwealth cemetery. There are 12,000 headstones, but there's also 35,000 names on the panels because there wasn't enough room on the Menin Gate. Now just add the numbers up, and you got like Wembley. Can you imagine that number of people in Wembley that were lost? Now these people have either been blown to bits or they're still out there, and bodies are regularly found. And I think 4 were repatriated last week. They were discovered during they were digging foundations for the building. Sadly, they've come across them, but they were able to identify them, and they've been buried there with honours. In France, we've got for example, there is the Tivol Memorial, which is the one that dominates the Somme, and that I would say because it's going to be relevant in one of our films, it will be featured. But to stand there and you hear the birds singing, and it's such a peaceful place. 73,000 names on this memorial. Yeah. It's you can't comprehend it. Yeah, and to look out across the battlefields and wonder how that many people could be lost. I mean, if you think about the trenches where they were moving backwards and forwards, they were buried. Some of them were buried at some stage, but then of course the shelling continues when the trench line is lost. So they were lost in that way. Or they're still there, you know. Now, and you've been there, you know, so you've experienced that. You and Liam, your brother. When we were over there to look for Charles, you know, we went there.
Yeah, it's overwhelming. As you say, it dominates the skyline. And when you see photographs of it, it's of course it's iconic and unmistakable as to what it is. But then when you're there and you see how big it is, you know, in some cases you think the trees are in the background of photographs, but they're not. They're in front of it. It's that big. It absolutely, as you say, it's breathtaking, and it really it's very humbling as well, isn't it? You know, you realise, you know, you can't help but feel like, try and comprehend like the extent of the horrors for all of the graveyards that you go to as well, and the countless numbers of headstones and of plots where people are laid to rest, and then you think, well, there's hundreds of thousands of those, and so then further hundreds of thousands just names. Yeah, it's really quite staggering. And
there are projects ongoing in a general sense to do the biographies and find photographs of all these men, so they aren't forgotten. And from our own point of view, we have got 2 Everton players who are on the Tivol Memorial. Right. We've got Brannick, who's on the Menin Gate, so that's why I mentioned them as well.
What were the names of the guys on the?
Well, can you remember? I'm not. One of them is one of the Chilean lads, and and the other one we'll mention another time.
And for those who did survive and those who managed to make it home, I've realised we've not discussed the medals that we have on the table here as well. So give us an idea of the kind of things that people will be awarded.
Have you got family medals like that?
In drawers,
yeah. That's it. They're just stuffed in drawers, aren't they? I don't understand it. You know, a lot of people have them framed up on walls, and we'll be the same.
They are things to be proud of for sure. So can you give us a little run through of what we have here on the table?
Do you recognise any? Have you got?
You're the expert. You tell me through them.
Well, we have these 3 here are from the First World War. If you went out there early enough, 1914-15, you've got the Star, and then there's the Victory Medal in the middle. There's the British Medal in the middle, and the Victory Medal on the right, which has got the goddess Nike. So if you're wondering why they use Nike as a sports brand, it's for their victory, but that's why it's on the medal. Those are service medals for World War II. So my grandfather was on the home front, but he was on the guns at the light artillery, looking out for the aircraft coming in. So he got those. These were affectionately called Pip, Squeak and Alfred, because there was a cartoon in the newspapers at that time. So, but they would come in a little box, which I don't know what that. Yeah, so they'd arrive in a box like that, and not everybody claimed them either. Lots of bitterness at the end of the war from many people, and they didn't want to know. So lots of medals weren't claimed. Unfortunately, for family members, you can't get those for World War I, but you can for World War II. So if you're the oldest in the generation surviving, and you do the research and you can provide birth certificates, death certificates, that kind of thing, you can actually claim the medals as replacements.
So I just want to be sure there, the ones that we have in the box here, are they the same as the World War One?
Yeah, the First World War, but they just to show that's how they came in the box.
Yes,
yeah.
they're the same medals
same
there,
ones, yeah.
They?
And also they would have the names and rank around the rim as well, so they are unique. Just as the Memorial Penny was unique, these are the same. And I always find it sad when people. I mean, I was given those. They brought them into the place where I taught and said maybe you as a teacher you might like these to use them in the classroom. I said great, but I always think it's very sad where they didn't want them. Their family member. I've looked into the research of the soldiers concerned, and well, there you go. But at least they're still being used. They're not in a drawer. So.
Brilliant.
I wasn't having a go there, by the way.
Safely in the drawer.
Yeah, safe in a drawer, yeah.
So, in terms of where people can find out more information on this stuff, of course, family historians, researchers of both world wars. Can we go through some of the books again in terms of recommendations? We've got quite a few here on set with us. You mentioned the Liverpool Pals
Liverpool
there by
Pals.
Graham
We've got things like the VC book as well in the same series, the Cheshire Bantams.
There's Liverpool VCs by James Murphy, Cheshire Bantams, Stephen McGreal.
Yeah, Steve McGreal, and there's the Liverpool Scottish one as well here. Because I got this one because Charles Royden's brother was in the Scots, so in the kilt and everything, So, but that was a Liverpool regiment.
Okay.
So they fought out there as well. So
that's the Liverpool Scottish 1900 to 1919.
Yeah, but there's plenty of stuff online now as well. Because I started this before the days of the net, because I'm that old, and kind of a lot of it's at the touch of a button. Previously, I'd be going down to the Public Record Office in London or various other institutions. So. It kind of irks me at times where you can just press a button and find some of this stuff, But anyway, it's all how it is, isn't it?
It's very useful.
Yeah.
And just to finish off there with the other books that we have, obviously you mentioned before George Orr, member of the society who wrote on the 1940s. Just to bring this back to the Everton connection here. As we've said, Rob, your book there, Broken Dreams, Everton, The War and Goodison's Lost Generation.
Yeah, brilliant book.
The story of the 1939 league title winners.
There we go.
Well modelled.
Thank you, sir.
And that brings us on to shortly after the war, we had a young man called Peter Farrell playing at full-back for Everton, and you've just brought out a new book called The Emerald Evertonian, which is on the shelf behind you there. So do you want to give it a little plug?
Seamless that. Thank you, Lewis.
Who was Peter Farrell?
Just out. So obviously Peter Farrell came over from Ireland with his great friend Tommy Edlington, 1946. And had over a decade of fantastic service to the Toffees, as well as on the international front for Ireland. Only the second player to be awarded the Silver Shamrock for 25 appearances in the green shirt. And of course, maybe his greatest moment was in the green shirt, but at Goodison Park when he scored against England in 1949. The first time.
Film clip of that, haven't we?
There is a clip of that, yeah. He scored at the Gladys Street end to confirm a 2-0 victory. The first time England have been defeated by a foreign nation on home soil. So, I've been working on that for 5 years, so thrilled to get it out. Had a lot of help from people.
And the forward by?
A forward by a certain Ireland and Everton player called Seamus Coleman. So, thrilled that Seamus kindly gave his time to do the forward. And of course, Seamus also played for Sligo, as did Peter briefly. So lots of
quite fitting,
many
very
connections there, isn't there? So a perfect Christmas present.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
that one as well.
They all
are. Honestly,
Everton and Heritage Society authors to now's the time.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
November.
There's an extensive amount that you can find again on the website with all the relevant links to all of the authors, all of their back catalogues. There are Amazon links, so you can buy them online. We have quite a lot in the room here with us, so if you're here on a match day before the game, come and call in upstairs at the BlueHouse Beer Hall. There's quite a few on the shelves.
Probably all those available, isn't it?
A few on my shelf as well, if you want to just come and have a little browse. When is the Emerald Evertonian out? Is that available already?
It's out now. You can order it online through bookshops, and hopefully I'll get back here to do a book signing towards the end of November.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That was going to be my next.
And also, if you follow us on our social media, there's regular updates, and we put links on there as well for it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I was going to mention that. Hopefully, at some point in the next, at some point during the season, we can sit down and have a real, more in-depth conversation about Peter Farrell and go into that research. As you say, 5 years of research. It's not something that's just kind of cropped up overnight, is it? There's a lot to it and a lot of
many hours we spend in darkened or lit rooms. Away at the keyboards in the research, but it's
with an understanding wife.
Very understanding. Paula, yes. Before we sort of finish up, I know we talked about Remembrance, and obviously this will go out after the 11th thing, but we do have the ceremony by Dixie Dean statue, and it's probably worth a shout out to Paul Kelly and also to Reverend Henry Corbett,
of course,
who do so much to bring that together, and in the past people like John Rowlands and Paul Wharton, and also to the club for their support. So I think it's probably just worth acknowledging what they and other members of the society do to the hours they put in. Not always obvious what people do, but
for sure it takes a lot of organisation and to pull people together, and of course we regularly have servicemen and women there as well, representing the armed forces, and very good of them, and members of of course members of Everton FC currently, who will come and pay their respects at the memorial plaques at the Dixie Dean statue,
and the filming as well,
and
you make a record of it.
Merely promoting the research done by the historians and things. So thank you very much for raising that, Rob. That's a very valid point. Which more or less brings us to the end of the show. I think we're getting close to kick-off, as we always do, and we always end up with a pretty tight margin of time before running over the road. So it's Fulham this afternoon. Rob, last time you were on the sofa, you expertly predicted a 1-1 draw against West Ham. Have you got it in you again today?
I think 2-1 either way. I just feel it's going to be a 3-goal thriller.
On the fence.
Obviously, former manager coming back to haunt us.
Of course,
Let's just hope, I'm hoping Barry gets another go up front. I don't know if he will, and I hope something just goes in off his shin or off his backside, and he gets the goal that he needs. But we shall see. How about you, Mike?
Well, I think I'll predict mine after the game, the way Lewis did a couple of weeks ago. And with the judicious editing, he made it look like he did it before the game. So I think I'll do that.
I rumbled that when I heard your last prediction.
I did try and make it slightly obvious with the very last words
there.
Jack Grealish, 97th minute. Had to be done. So you're not giving any predictions whatsoever. We'll leave it till later.
2-1.
Either way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bold.
It depends who he puts out.
Okay.
Anyway,
this isn't a podcast of opinions, so let's leave it there. Thanks very much for coming in, guys, for sharing all of your information, and of course for bringing all this fantastic stuff to show off on the table. So until next time, thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Cheers.
Thank you, Lewis.
One of the most enigmatic, charismatic and iconic footballers ever to pull on a Goalkeepers jersey. He was the most illegible bachelor of the time, a bit like Beckham of his day, dapper suits, all that sort of thing. No one had seen the like of him. This was the time when you'd have the strikers, one going in to take out the goalkeeper and the other one to put the ball in the net. Now, Roose was unusual because he gave as good as he got. He would quite often take the ball up to the halfway line. Now, in those days, the goalkeepers were able to handle it right up to the halfway line. So you had to bounce it, but that's how he would start an attack. Not all goalkeepers took advantage of that, but he did. And people would go along just to see him. You know, he was such an amazing guy. During the game, he'd be chatting to the crowd behind the goal, telling jokes, all that sort of thing. He was even known to swing on the crossbar. The First World War began on the 4th of August 1914. Not long afterwards, Roose signed on for the Royal Army Medical Corps. The Germans mounted a counter-attack and they were using a flamethrower. Private Roose, who had never visited the trenches before, was in the sap when the Flammenwerfer attack began. He managed to get back along the trench, and although nearly choked with fumes and with his clothes burnt, refused to go to the dressing station. He continued to throw bombs until his arm gave out, and then, joining the covering party, used his rifle with great effect. And for this he was awarded the Military Medal, an astonishing achievement, and he was also promoted to Lance Corporal. Gordon Hawke, an amateur England international, witnessed Roose running across no man's land at full pelt towards the enemy, firing his rifle as he went.
Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the show today. Really informative stuff from both of my guests. A reminder that you can find all of the information that you've heard about today over on the Everton FC Heritage Society website, which is efcheritagosociety.com, where you can find all of our programme articles, a download of the booklet on the fallen soldiers of Everton, as well as all of the books that all of our members have written, and links as to where you can buy those and which bookstores you can buy them in as well, just in time for Christmas. So make sure you go and pick up a few of those, including, of course, the brand new Emerald Evertonian by Rob Sawyer, the feature on Peter Farrell, with a fantastic foreword as well by Seamus Coleman. You can also follow us on both of our YouTube pages. Make sure you like and subscribe this one. Give us a follow, turn the little bell on so you get your notifications as to when we're posting. Send your stories in, add some comments. I want to know about the personal stories and people that I know people have, and including the family tales of people lost at war. So always interested to hear those. But also on our Heritage Society YouTube page. All of the links will be in the description below the video, but that's where you'll be able to find the films that have come out this week, and retrospectively as well, of course, on Donald Sloan and Thomas Gracie, two Everton soldiers lost in the First World War, as well as that fantastic new documentary on the life of Leigh Roose, which is well worth a watch. So I'll throw in the trailer here as well, if hopefully. And I think that's everything. So I think the only thing I missed out earlier was my own prediction. So I'm going with 5-0 Everton, and 3 of them will get disallowed. Till next time.